This is the Shawn Yankey Show.
And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack.
This episode of the Shawn Yankey Show is being brought to you by the support of viewers like me. We realize the importance of independent media and truth in this time of mass deceit and propaganda. We have decided to fight for and support it to keep it alive. You can help us in this fight for truth. Contribute at patreon.com/Shawn Yankey. Thanks for coming to the show. It'll begin soon.
Hey everybody, get in here. It is time once again for the Shawn Yankey Show. I am Shawn. This is the Shawn Yankey Show. So you are in the right place at the right time, no matter where you're at. We're live right now. Got to catch my breath. I ran in here. We're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So no matter where you are, say hi and join in the show, because this is a discussion-driven chat show. We have a conversation. We gather and hang out every weeknight at the same time and have a discussion. Tonight, we have a special guest on the show, but let me say hi real quick and see who's here and get the conversation going. Lolly got first. Hey, Lolly, Helen, Joan, Lee, Dolores, Ron, good to see you. Yes, it is, Heath. This is where the fun begins, and sharing is caring. Ron, you're right. Please share this out. Get this out. Put it everywhere. Because like I said, we have a special guest tonight. Lolly wants to see the shirt. This is Ant Drummer. See, he's an ant. He's playing drums. It really has no meaning. I just like it. But yes, also, Ron has got a lot of good points today. He's making a lot of sense. Smash those buttons. Make sure you do. And hold on, I had to check something. But yes, smash them, because look, that helps the show. That helps us get out and helps us do better in the algorithm and reach more people. So please interact as much as possible in the show. And tonight, like I said, we have a special guest coming on the show. And I'm stalling because this is a live show. And we kind of missed scheduling things. And I'm trying to get a hold of them at the moment. So when I get a hold of them and I see that we've linked up, I'll bring it in. But Ty Ntefalle is coming on. Although I keep being skittish about saying who's coming on because I don't know, really. I invited Dearest George on the show, but he's been, and he posted the link to tonight's show on the Snidely Vaden profile. I'm not sure who's coming, but whoever it is, it's going to be fantastic because every time Ty is on, we have a great time. So I'm sure that that's all that's happened is we've missed a connection here. So I've reached out to him, and when I see that he sees my messages, we'll get to that. But in the meantime, I thought that something fun to do while we wait would be to watch the new video, the Conspiracy Theories and Chill video from Wednesday night. I really am excited about that one, and it's doing really well on Rumble. As a matter of fact, go over there and give it a Rumble. I'm putting the videos on Rumble now because we were getting so heavily suppressed on YouTube. I'm already having better results with this World's Fair video. It's up to 550 views. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but I would make these videos and put them up on my YouTube channel, and it was so suppressed that I would get 40, 50 views. You know, all this effort, and then no one would see them. So that's pretty nice. It's a newer, well, I don't know how new, it's new to me, video sharing platform, but they don't censor. And, you know, it's not as suppressed. Oh, sweet. Message me on Ty Ntefalle. I'm there. All right. Got it. All right. I'm going to send you the link on that profile. So sweet. But yeah, what was I saying while I was stalling? I kind of forgot. Oh, the video. Check that out. The new Conspiracy Theories and Chill video. I don't need to fall back on it now, but maybe we'll watch it. Definitely watch it tomorrow night during the weekend review. Every Saturday night, I edit up the show, all of the highlights from the week, and we hang out and watch it on Saturday nights. So I'm going to get this link over to Ty, to the correct profile. See, that's what it was. I knew I was doing something wrong, and I just was talking to the wrong profile. But while I find that and look for it, this is kind of hard. Anytime I'm doing something while I'm live, I try to keep running my mouth, but it's very obvious that I'm heavily distracted. And I haven't messaged the Ty profile in a while, apparently. It's way down here. But thanks for coming, everybody that's here. And I'm sorry that I'm stalling so much at the very beginning. There it is, finally. All right. So I've got the link over to Ty. And when I see that he's in with us, we'll bring him into the show. But while we wait, do you guys want to watch it really quick? It's only about 10 minutes. I don't know how much time Ty needs. Why don't I see? I'll wait and see if he needs some time or if he's ready right now, because, you know, I can buy us like 10 minutes worth of time if you guys want to watch that video. But if we don't get to watch it, if we don't spit it in, I almost feel like I should now because I mentioned it so many times. But check it out on Rumble. It's about the World's Fairs, specifically the earlier World's Fairs, and what I think might have really been going on with them. I think it may have been to hide some history and maybe a complete civilization that dwelled in these places long before, and to erase that. So it's an interesting video. Zuckerbuck is in the house. Hey, Zuckerbuck. Says, I love Ty, one of my favorite individuals to suspend. Zuckerbuck is hilarious. So I'm really glad to see you here, Zuck. I know a lot of people don't like you, but you know why. You know why. You're not a likable guy. You know, it's just that you're not very, well, you're not human. You know, you don't have very many likable characteristics. See, you're not popular. But look, okay, what I'm going to do, just to regroup and get us started, and because I mentioned it like 50,000 times, I am going to play the video really quick and get in touch with Ty now that I know the right profile, and set it up and get us all ready. And by the time we come back, we'll have Ty with us. So we're going to watch the video really quick because I just feel like I'm having too much dead air while I stall. And then I'm going to get in touch with him and line this all up. According to Wikipedia, a World's Fair is a large international exhibition designed to showcase achievements of nations. These exhibitions vary in character and are held in different parts of the world at a specific site for a period of time, ranging usually from 3 to 6 months. But what if that is just what we're being told in order to hide the true history of humanity and remove and reclaim the landmarks of an entire civilization that actually dwelled and thrived in these specific locations long ago? Well, tonight on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to look at some of the early World's Fairs and see what, if anything, they have in common, what they might have really represented or even took place to hide, and whether we're being told the truth about these events at all. Let's start by looking at the world's first World Fair in 1851, which was by far the biggest event of the 19th century, and was held inside one spectacular and historically out-of-place building. The Crystal Palace that had sprung up in one of London's largest public spaces. Glittering in the sunlight, it was truly a sight to behold. The first prefabricated building of its kind. The enormous glass house incorporated 300,000 sheets of glass in the largest size then ever made. Held in position with some 24 miles of patent guttering. In just 9 months, this magnificent building had become a shining landmark on the capital skyline. The completed building was a sight to behold, 562 meters long, 124 meters wide, and towering 30 meters high over Hyde Park. That's about 10 stories high. Most importantly, this colossal feat of engineering was finished on time. This amazing structure was supposedly built in 9 months with 19th century technology. And you could tell me it took 3 times as long to construct, and I'd still give you heavy side-eye. Just look at the intricacy and detail, and then imagine this being done with 19th century technology and horses and buggies. How did they manufacture, move, and assemble this structure at all? Much less in just 9 short months. What if they didn't? What if it was actually always there? What if the World's Fairs were used as an excuse to demolish ancient architectural heritage left over from a hidden advanced society? These World's Fairs are famous for unexplained out-of-time architecture. These massive structures are all said to have been built rapidly for the purpose of these World's Fairs and then demolished afterwards. Why would they do that? Why create such beautiful buildings just to demolish them? And what inspired these creations that all seem to come from the same society, style, and time period? For more comparison, let's move ahead a bit in time to the World's Fair of 1893 in Chicago. You were told that the city of Chicago once held the World's Columbian Exhibition to publicly celebrate Columbus discovering America. The year of it was 1893, and the Great Economic Panic was already underway. But some 27 million people, a number equal to half of the entire United States population at the time, is said to have arrived from around the world to behold 200 newly erected buildings on 600 acres of reclaimed swamp, all of which had come to fruition within 2 years of its initial planning. All of this great white city was said to be built in just 2 years. The official story is that the Great White City was built akin to a movie set. Facades were made not of stone, we are told, but a mixture of plaster, cement, and a jute fiber called staff, all of which was then painted white in order to give the Chicagoan Camelot its gleam. Apparently, 27 million people were said to have braved the frontier by boat, buggy, and train to converge upon Chicago in order to be wowed by a neoclassical city built of glue and popsicle sticks that was only made to look like the real thing. And we are expected to believe that developers and exhibitors spent 2 years building and millions upon millions of dollars investing in, which they would then just turn around and destroy. And there are absolutely no blueprints for the White City's construction, and documentation on the construction is thin. Except for a few rinky-dink shacks resembling put-up props, it doesn't seem that anything was really built here at all. And then they just destroyed it? Now let's look at the World's Fair of 1878 held in Paris, France. Just look at these buildings, the detail of them, the size, and how out of place in time they seem. Again, most of these structures were said to be built in impossibly short amounts of time, and money seemed to be no issue or concern. And again, your same architectural and landscaping styles used. These World's Fair buildings all seem to share many characteristics. Fortunes were said to have been spent constructing all of this just for the fair, just to display it for a short time, and then demolish it. Now let's go ahead a little further to the U.S. In April 1904. St. Louis, Missouri opened its doors to the world for what was officially called the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, but was widely known as the St. Louis World's Fair. Millions of dollars had again been spent to build the 1,200-acre fairgrounds and its nearly 1,500 buildings, a huge scale that ended up delaying the opening by a year. During the 8 months the fair stayed open, it's said that nearly 20 million people paid a visit. Now on display were marvels of technology, agriculture, art, and history, and there were amusement rides and entertainment to be found in a section called the Pike. The fair introduced a huge audience to some relatively new inventions, which was common of these fairs, such as private automobiles, outdoor electric lighting, and the X-ray machine. And again, after the fair closed, nearly all of its structures were demolished within a short period of time. All of these impressive structures built for one event in the middle of the country? Why? Why build these beautiful structures complete inside and out? You could go into these buildings. They were real buildings. Why go to all of that trouble? Just look at the intricacy and detail of these structures. Consider then the time periods that we are discussing and the means that they would have had to construct them at the time, not to mention the massive expense. $1 million back then is like saying billions today. Why would so much money be invested into such extravagance just to demolish it afterwards in nearly every instance? These buildings are pieces of art. They are breathtaking, to say the least. All the way back to the very first World's Fair so far, they share this particular trait of unexplained and seemingly out of time and place structures. And in all instances, these beautifully detailed pieces of art were destroyed soon after the fairs ended. But why do these structures from different places and time periods seem to match each other so closely? Is it possible that all these different World's Fairs architecture seems to match each other for a particular reason? What if these structures were already there, and these early World Fairs were to explain these unexplainable and amazing pieces of architecture to the masses, and at the same time erase the existence of a previous advanced civilization? What if all these structures and the out-of-place structures that match these that stand to this day, what if all of these were already here? What if the World's Fairs were really held to explain away true human history in order to rewrite their own? To believe that these were all just put together as events and that such extravagance and money was just thrown around to make the impossible real is just insanity, in my opinion. No, I think it's much more likely that these structures already existed long before we settled in these lands, from a civilization whose history is being hidden from us. This has been a look into the truth of the early World's Fairs from conspiracy theories and chill, and I'm sure we will be revisiting this topic very soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon with a brand new topic. Speaking of that, I got to get that poll up. We choose all of our topics for those videos with polls that we do, and I got to get the new one up so we can pick our next topic and get our next video done. But during the video, we made our connection and we found Ty. So we are going to bring Ty into the show and get started. Ty is our special guest tonight, and well, it looks like I'm using the wrong name. I just saw it's Furious George that's coming on, but I'm going to get us ready and bring him in. So without any further ado.
Hello.
Hey, I'm sorry about all that.
No, it was all me. I was delayed and I was being very ab-foul. Like, sorry I'm late, darling. Sorry I'm late. You know. So
Fashionably late.
Fashionably late. You know, that's what I say. You can't show up ugly. You just have to show up fashionable. So
that's right. You're right on time, though. As soon as you get here, it's right on time.
Yeah, I'm glad to know. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to have you. I have a great time every time you're here.
Yeah. I hope so. That's the plan here. If you're not having fun, why bother? So
right.
You know, kind of casual. Oh, just kind of random menthol, you know.
Oh, okay. I got excited. I have empty pipes.
Oh,
I know, sad times.
I'm not supposed to be. I'm just because why not? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Given this year and the previous year, like I don't. Why not? Really?
Right.
So,
it's the dumbest thing I do, but I do it too.
At least we know. At least we're not naive to what we're doing. So, because a lot of people are, you know, they don't, you know, they're like, oh, we'll stave off, we'll catch it off, but no, it'll eventually catch up with you. So,
yeah,
you know, they really will.
Well, everybody
is
really excited to see you too, and I'm glad to have you.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
What's been going on?
Everything. Change of life dynamics and just like it's radical change all the time. So. But I'm learning to like take it as lessons now. I'm not taking everything as a personal slight anymore. So it's been the biggest change.
Being more introspective and learning about yourself.
Yeah. You know, fighting less. You know, I love my fights and all that, my arguing, but you got to move beyond it. You know, you got to have a purpose, something to do.
Right.
You know, so I wasn't engaged with a lot of like love aspects of myself previously, and now I got 2 boyfriends, so it's weird and. It's a poly thing, and it's complicated, but it works, and it's just weird that it happened at a time when we're not supposed to be contacting people, and that's when you contact the most real people. I like that.
That is good. I have so many questions about that. That's crazy. The jealousy I would think would be off the charts, but how does that work?
Interestingly enough, that's our number one question. Is like, well, these are all self-actualized people, so they're not controlling. You know what I mean? Like they don't control their spouse. Their spouses are extensions of them, but they don't complete them. Because, you know, a lot of people fall in love thinking that like another person's going to complete them. And so they control that person, like who they can talk to, where they can go. And like, we know what our feelings are, you know, to each other independently of each other. So what this person is providing that we're not providing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'd be afraid if a stray girl wandered into this house, babies would shank her. Probably here on accident. There was no way.
To each their own. So it's not even like a bad or good thing. It's just some people like that. Some people are turned on by it. Like a lot of they're turned on by their partner with other people. So and they like sharing, and they're kind of into that. So it just depends on whatever floats your boat.
3 people would connect in the same way at the same time like that. Isn't that crazy?
Weird, but for different reasons. Like we don't provide the same thing to each other. So that's what's interesting. It's almost like a weird group dynamic. The energy is just very interesting, but it melds, but only because we're self-actualized. We don't, and we're apolitical and all that. It's like once you drop all the bullshit, and then you're like, oh, okay, you're actually just people. You're not caricatures of people. You know what I mean? Which is what most people are now. They're like cartoon versions of people. So
yes.
Especially the people they deem villains. They think villains are all like Thanos and Darkseid and stuff, and they're not. That's who they're trying to attack. You know, like we need to go get them. Like, no, that's not how this is. It's mostly us.
Yeah.
It's mostly us being stupid. It's not really people doing things to us, you know? So
stupidity is a huge part of it. Willful ignorance as well.
Mm-hmm. Willful ignorance. That's mostly it. And pretend knowledge. Because we get a lot of people that pretend to know.
We were just talking about that the other day, how the term woke has been taken over.
Oh, it's terrible.
Now means something completely different.
It was terrible when they first came out. We never used it. We never called ourselves woke.
I know,
we thought
but I had this
little
little morning show, and I had a catchphrase for it, a tagline, a morning show for the woke. I thought it was cute.
It is.
I'm so old. Like, you could see out of touch I am. Right away, everybody started telling me that word is bullshit. I'm like, it's catchy.
It's fine, but you know, you can't please everybody. So
right?
What are you gonna do?
And I'm pleading naivete on this one. I'm just out of the loop. I didn't know. I had no idea they'd taken it over.
Well, they take over everything, and most of the terms we use were created by them anyway, like truther and all these other things. So we just go by research. We just go by researchers mostly because that's what it is you're just researching. That's all.
I always like the term that whatever everybody's going to understand right away. Like, I got told a long time ago that I should not call myself a conspiracy theorist, but everybody knows what I'm talking about right away.
Exactly.
You know, it cuts through the bullshit.
Yeah, and it's like there's no reason not to take pride in that because it's just a slang term against us. And I'm like, oh, I don't care. You
if I call myself a researcher, in 5 minutes they're gonna label me a conspiracy theorist
anyway. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's like, oh, I'm a conspiracy about what? The things that were proven in congressional records? Wow, you got me there.
Exactly. We can address it.
You don't have to feel bad about it because it's there in record. They just didn't read it. That's all I was saying. They don't read anything. So that's our number one problem. Yeah, that's the only way you can do it. It's not, you don't have to tell them they're like, you don't have to be like condescending or inflammatory or, you know what I mean, or hyper sensationalized or anything. You just have to go, well, here's what the congressional record says. So I don't know what to tell you, but that's what they put. We're just quoting their own record back to them. That's all it is. That's all we're doing.
And there's so many things that they would think you're crazy that you could do that with, and they just refuse to look at it.
And they wonder why the conspiracy theories only exist because why? We don't have full disclosure. So if we don't have full disclosure, by definition, you're making us fill in the gaps. You're causing that problem on purpose. So. Right. They can't be mad at us for making up things when they won't give us the information. We've asked them to do so, and they won't do it. And then when the information's found out, they're like, "Oh, sorry, maybe there are aliens." And they just oopsie doodles, like, you know what I mean? So it's like they just feign ignorance. They're not. People think they're stupid. That's what's funny. They're not stupid. They're feigning ignorance. They're pretending not to know things. That's really what it is. Because the alternative is what? Wickedness. So that's why they're not going to do that. They're not going to be outright wicked. They're just going to pretend like they're ignorant. Oh, I didn't know that. Who? What virus? What are you talking about? Halliburton? Who? I don't know who that is. Is that a rapper? I don't know who that is, sweetie.
Right.
You know, they just act stupid about it. So I think that's what people didn't get about Bush, too. They thought he was actually dumb. I'm like, no, he's pretending to be dumb. That's the whole problem. So, because that's why
Trump was dumb, too.
Yeah. And that's why they got away with things, because people just underestimated them. You're like, oh, see, they like to play. What is that? Sun Tzu's Art of War? Appear weak when you are strong.
Mm-hmm.
And then reverse, appear strong when you are weak. So a lot of Art of Wars come up a lot today. It's come up a lot, especially when it comes to double spies, people that, you know, we think are evil but might be good, and some people we think are good that might be evil. Good times. That book really came in handy. It really did.
It does. Often I find myself looking back at quotes from Sun Tzu.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Actually, everything came up. Everything did. All the people that warned us came up. We were worried about whether it was Huxley or Orwell, and it's actually both. So that's funny.
Yeah. Well, they were even writing each other about it.
Mm-hmm. And their fundamental
notes, and
they had a fundamental disagreement.
Going to get it right, and it was a melding of the two. They were both right.
They were both right. Isn't that funny? That's a good plan. That's a pretty good plan there. So, and then you muddle them so much you can't even tell. Good stuff. They really worked hard on that. They really did. So
Zuckerberg makes a good point about what social media does do. They don't. He says they don't pretend to know things. He pays people to make what he says factual.
Ooh, good one. Why would you do it when you can pay me to pretend to do it for you?
It's kind of true, though. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They just put out what they want, their information, and then they promote that and make it the fact.
Which is now legal.
Whatever the population believes is what ends up being true to them.
Yep. It's legal
all they got to do is
for your government to do that.
Average sheep. He's right.
It's fun. And we can set
Sarah's also right. Sharing is caring. Ron would tell you that.
Yeah. Hi, Sarah Williams. Yeah,
I had to put up some comments and involve the people because everybody's excited that you're here, and we've been looking forward to it.
Fashion darlings, good to see you. It's been a long week. Let me just tell you, a long week. So
there were a lot of really interesting costumes lately that you've been wearing. There was one the other day. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like 20s style. It was very elaborate.
Was it pink? What color was it? Do you remember?
I think it was pink. And then but the wig was blonde, and it was like that 20s style hairdo.
Was it a bob? Was it that blonde bob with the red dress?
That was yes.
Yeah.
I'm messing up the colors, but I'm red green colorblind, so I mess colors up all the time.
That's fine.
But yeah, no, I just imagine your closet being like the size of my bedroom.
It is. It is. I have an overflow.
How long did it take to build up like the collection of a wardrobe like that?
About 10, 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. I've always been a costumer since I was like 13. So it's just that I
make a lot of stuff too, right?
I make most of it. And then a lot of it's just, I just mix and match and buy and use stuff. And then people give me a lot of stuff too. They're like, oh, this can't be used. And then I use it specifically for a production. And they're like, oh, I remember when I gave him that jacket. And I'm like, oh, you could have used any of this. You just didn't. So anything can be used really. So you got to use what you have when you're poor. You know, that's just what it is. So, I mean, it's a big buildup. But since entertainment's been collapsed, we're kind of just hanging out. So I just dress up every day because what else is there to do with this shit? So
yeah, I had someone arguing with me the other day because, you know, as far as comedy goes, it's kind of shut down now too.
Of course it is.
And they were trying to argue with me that entertainment is thriving. I'm like, where?
For who?
In what way? How?
It's thriving for rich people. Yeah.
Performance dance in the streets in New York now to keep culture alive. Just to do random performance dances, you can get a permit.
Right.
We got to stand 6 feet apart.
Of course.
But you can.
That's why we don't even bother with the bars anymore because it's like you can't be in groups. So you can't have go-go's. You can't touch each other
anywhere. Even Dave Chappelle had to do a special with people like, 10 feet apart from each other outside in a big field. So it's impossible. I don't know where they're seeing, because I was talking about how a lot of people are being crippled by all this. And they're like, no, there's plenty of places. They'll defend it no matter what, because the TV didn't tell them.
Indeed. And so, and they don't work in the field. So they have no idea. They're mostly people that don't work in the field. Those of us that work in it know what's going on. So it's clearly, but it doesn't collapse for like Tom Hanks. It just collapse for the rest of us that.
Right.
But what it is it's a $1 trillion industry. So it can't just go away. You have to provide somebody. Like that's millions upon millions of people's jobs that are gone. So I don't know what people are thinking that's going to. But the whole point is that they don't want you to have culture and art. Artists are keeping you guys alive. They don't want you to have artists because then you might break out. Like, that's the whole problem. Because people don't remember the politicians of all these times. They remember the artists of those times. That's the whole issue. So the artists have to be specifically removed. That's entirely the point. So.
And that is a good way of saying it because it's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Eliminating it.
Mm-hmm. Especially places like us that are dive bars that bring people together. They don't want you doing social gatherings because then you might meet other people. They don't want you to meet other people. They need to control the means of communication. That's the whole problem. And people think they're going to do all this other stuff. No, until you get communication settled, you can't do anything else. And that's why the big tech fight is the only real fight at this moment, because if they control the access, nothing else you do matters. Because they're telling you who you can access and why. And you can't prevent them from doing it. So the only way you can do it is if you, I guess, sue them by slander, libel, and defamation. That's the only way, because they can't just defame you just because they don't like what you're saying, like they did Robert Kennedy, and that's why he's probably going to win his lawsuits. But to like actually get a platform that succeeds, they're not controlling, that's decentralized, is going to take a long time. It's going to take a minute. Okay.
Right.
So,
well, they own it all. They own everything, all the avenues for information.
We can still use it though. So it's not that we can't use it. It's just that we have to know its limitation. You know what I mean? It's limited. Everything is limited. So they know what we're going to do already. So we can't outplan them. They already know. So it's just a matter of how do we use it productively? Because yeah, as you said, they're going to control all of it, and they're going to infiltrate it from the very beginning and do all that. But you can clearly it still works, so we wouldn't be here. Clearly, we can still use it. So it's just about how we use it. So most people have an ideology attack for these people, and I'm like, they don't have an ideology. This is all tactical based. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're just setting up traps to see if you'll fall for it. That's just really what it is. So
right.
But we're backing them into a corner. That's why they're acting this way. It's exactly why they are. So.
And Riley brings up a good point. Like it's when certain topics will come up, they'll cut you. And I've noticed when a certain, and I don't ever even say anything positive about it. When a certain letter of the alphabet comes up, I get a correction hit on YouTube every time. Why? Every time I even reference it, I call it a psyop.
Yeah.
They still put the Wikipedia correction under the video and everything just because the word came up.
Yeah, the word triggers it. So I don't even say them in my cast. The thing that shall not be named, like the person that shall not, it's just one of those because you don't want to trigger it. But this was our warning from the beginning. If we can't speak the truth openly, we're going to have to learn how to speak it in code. We're just going to have to. So it's been done years before. How do you think the Masons got their power in the first place? Codes. That's secret societies. So we're going to speak code. If we want to be here, the alt tech sites still exist and you can still post there. It's just nobody's really there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Bailiff tells me all the time I need to learn how to follow the rules. Or manipulate them, which is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, indeed. But a lot of it is right. Follow the rules. Like law is very straightforward if you know how to read it. It's all based on contracts. Your rights can only be enforced through contract. So that's really what it is. It's entirely consent based. Now they manipulate and coerce that consent, which means it's not an authentic consent. But if you don't know that from the beginning, then you're going to keep falling for their traps like that. You know what I mean? It's word magic. That's essentially what law is. It's word magic. So they just kind of manipulate you into giving up your sovereignty for them. You know what I mean? You're giving it to them for them to use. So, and that's the hardest part for people to realize is that they're doing it. They think somebody's doing it to them, and they're not really doing it to you. You're doing it. It's just that they're manipulating you into it, manufacturing your consent into it. That's really what it is. So it's very hard. It's very hard because psychopaths don't, they'll tell you anything. They'll tell you truth, lies, whatever works. So we're trying to fight them with like an ideological base. Oh, they won't go here or they won't do this. They will. They will do that. They have no conscience at all. Everything's a means to an end. Everything. Your desires, your hatred, all of it.
They try to give them characteristics that they don't share with you. You don't think like you.
Yeah, they don't think, but they do share all the same kind of thing. Like we all have narcissistic parts and we all have that. It's just theirs is amplified to the max. And then people try to work on destroying these people. And I'm like, no. There's millions of psychopaths, millions and millions and millions of them. They're all CEOs. That's how you get those jobs. They actually care about the resources and how things work and how they're distributed and how they're disposed and how they cost and what they're made of and where they're located. They care about all those details and we don't. So because they care about it, they get to dictate how those things function. That's the downside of choosing dependence. That's the downside of it. Unfortunately. So we did it to ourselves, really. We really did consent to it, guys. We really did. So
it's true.
That's the sad part. It doesn't mean you can't have a government or anything. It just means it can't be a centralized power grab from 13 satanic families, That's all. That's all it is, really. So
right. Masquerading. It's all theater, once you realize it.
All the world's a stage. All the world is a stage. All of it. But a lot of people are late, and we're like, they're late. Remember, I think we said this last time. Like, we're out of the theater, and there's still people like showing up, parking their cars, and like, we're gonna see. We're like, oh, this show's been over for 2 hours. I don't know why you're a little late, honey. You're a little late. Curtain call was 7. I don't know where you're at, but yeah, that's crazy. It's okay. You can't save everybody. A lot of friends, I'm still getting floods of people. If you're like, I just realized we can't save everyone. Yeah, honey, we love you. We love our friends and family. We don't wish them ill will or anything like that. It's just we know they're not coming. They're on the Titanic and they're asking why we're on the lifeboats. We're like, you're still on that ship? Do you see that you're literally sinking into the ocean right now? They're just standing there.
Crazy for being on a lifeboat, getting off.
And we're already off. We're a bit off. We've been off. Bye. See you later. What are you doing over there? What are you doing? So crazy.
I worry a lot about them too, but you're right. There's only so much you can do. You've tried and tried and tried, and you couldn't get through.
And also you're planting seeds, of course, but also you can't help people that don't want help. Like if we try to help them against their will, that's invalidating their sovereignty. That means we don't think that they're smart enough to do it on their own. That's underestimating our fellow brothers and sisters there. So we have to understand that. Like our means, just because we want to help doesn't mean that's the right or moral action. So sometimes people just have to hit that brick wall themselves and go, okay. It's also why a lot of people rant on Facebook like this, is because they don't really need advice or anything. They just need to hear themselves say it and work through it in their mind out loud. It's venting. You know, that's how we work. So it's a mental thing. People mostly just need to know they were heard. They don't really need advice. They just need to be heard and acknowledge that people heard them. And then they can work through it on their own. They really can. So.
Ron says, let them drown.
Yep, they choose it. It's their choice. They have free will. If they believe in free will, then they believe in it. So we're choosing not to. So clearly it's a choice. Because if we're choosing not to drown and they're choosing to drown, what does that tell you? You know, so it is heartbreaking though, darling. That's why you should don't hate your enemies. You should never hate your enemies. It ruins your judgment, darling. So
yeah, I agree. You should more understand them, and then you can learn their motives, learn what they're doing to you, learn how to best defend against it, and even launch an opposition to it. Unless you get stuck up in emotions, you're just stuck.
Yeah.
You're stuck on hate and blame, which is useless.
Yeah, and well, anger serves a purpose for them, but not for. I mean, if it's not controlled, you know what I mean? Because they purposely antagonize.
Pick a side, but a lot of these people will fight to defend the system,
even as it destroys them. Even as it destroys them, they will. Yep. I mean, I don't think it will be as big of a faction as we think, but it still will be there. There will always be those people that were not meant to make it. They were never meant to. This just wasn't their life cycle to get it. You know, they didn't get it this time. Oopsie doodles, like, you know. So, I mean, the fact that we're still here is miraculous. Like, I mean, when I thought Clinton was going to want to win, and I was like, oh, I'm in FEMA Camp 4. I'm ready to go. Like, we were there. We already had the mindset of a jumpsuit. We were already there, ready to do it. So the fact that we're still here, we're like, something's watching us, apparently. So
it does feel like we're on borrowed time, though.
Yep. We're just the newest incarnation, whatever the fuck this show is called. That's all it is. We're just picking. That's all it is. And then the children have to pick up after us, and then they won't relate to us at all, and we'll be like, yeah, well, we tried to tell you, just as our parents tried to tell us, and we didn't care what they said either. It's the same cycle all over again. So I don't mind that. I like it. We grow each time. So
well. What is something that we could get into and kick around that's been on your mind? Right now, we've been talking about the thing I think we've been talking always, like the last 3 months has been about how it's all spiraling down into something frightening to me anyway. So I was kind of wondering what else is going on. You were talking about you've been working on yourself, and how does that go? What are you doing to do that?
Well, a lot of things that probably some of it X-rated, of course, but a lot of that is just like, you know, being in a new relationship and kind of like working that out and because I haven't really had this kind of dynamic before, and it's just very interesting as you learn a lot about your own behavior and how you communicate with other people and how to reason things once you don't understand something or something isn't. And also just not taking everything as a personal slight against you or your character, not feeling judged or shamed or guilty for not knowing.
I'm trying to work on myself.
It's hard. It's hard
to develop a thicker skin too.
Exactly. And he teases me a lot and then critiques me a lot. And I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, why are people doing that? No, but it's like, what is he saying? Why is he saying it? As opposed to just taking offense to it. Like, why is that being said? He's just noticing my behavior. He's not saying it's wrong. He's just noticing it and then pointing it out to me. And I'm like, okay. So it helps you kind of reason more. You know what I mean? You think instead of react. That's really what the main thing is now.
That's what I need to do more of and try to get more disciplined about. You know, I make an effort to, but my temper gets me sometimes.
You don't call me Furious George for nothing.
Right.
There's a reason for it. But I'm becoming more theorist George these days. So that's nice. I'm enjoying it. I think it's because I needed that. That was an aspect of my part of myself that was missing, was that kind of love relationship kind of partner, that was there.
Yeah.
So because I had everything else. I already knew career-wise what I was going to do and everything. I was already ready to do that, clearly. But without that, I was kind of becoming, isolated in my own crap. So it's nice to have somebody regularly there to be like, hey, you're full of crap. I'm like, oh, thank you. Humble yourself a bit, So,
well, I guess I already have that then. Babels is brutally honest.
That's what you
What
want.
I call my wife. We have the same nickname for each other. We both call each other Babels. It's like a word we made up. But yeah, she's brutally honest. So I guess I need to listen to her more.
Yeah, work with each other more. It's just one of those. I'm not really sure because it's different relationships for different people. So I don't want everyone to think there's one way to do this. There really isn't. So it's just like whatever. But you do have to be. It is. They are independent people. Because some of them. Some of the people that like them don't understand how we work, but a lot of them that like them just want them as like a completion of themselves. And I'm like, yeah, see, that's why. That's not attractive. It's desperation.
Right.
There's a lot of desperate is not the same thing as like attractive, or like lustful or anything. It's not like, it's just desperate. And we're like, yeah. They want a partner thinking it's going to do something for them, and they have to already be on that path themselves. And then you'll meet somebody that kind of works with that path along the way. So. And they were accident. It was completely on accident.
Actually,
it was because it was both on accident, and then it just kind of happened. It just started as something very casual, and then, but this is what we were talking about because he was on my cast yesterday. We did Love and War, Finding Love Through War, because we have a good friend of ours named Helena Summer, who's also a great live caster, and she's a refugee from the Yugoslavian war from the 90s, and she walked from the bombs and all that to like a nunnery or something. She's an amazing story. But she was saying even as the bombs were falling off, the kids were still playing. So never give up. She's a love therapist now, happier than ever. Just preaching sunshine all day. And I'm like, yep. So you can survive. And it was all because it was just you should be creating and having fun and doing all that. And people forgot about that because entertainment's gone. So now they're just used to bad news every day instead of like fun and like your family and barbecues and not all of that was just bread and circuses. A lot of that had profound impacts on people's lives. So
right. And that negativity, it goes back to something you said earlier. That is something people are doing to themselves actually, because they've done scientific studies that people respond to negative information better. So they want ratings, they want views. They're giving you what you want.
We're mimetic, and we as you said, we follow patterns, and the strongest one is negative over positive. But people follow results. They follow the result of an action. So if somebody takes a negative result and it receives a positive reaction, they'll take that action. So it's just really about what the result is. It's just negative fear and intimidation. So it's easier and quicker as opposed to the lengthy process of creating dialogue. So. Creation always takes time, and destruction is easy, and the cabals are the destroyers, and we're the creators. That's why we don't take revenge or do anything else. We just create ad nauseum. Every time they destroy something, we create something else. That's it. That's all we do. So people really want us to destroy. They're like, use your knowledge to destroy people. No, because then we view them. That's why we're not them. We allow you to fail. We allow you to do it yourself. We're doing it ourselves, so you do it yourself. Take personal responsibility. Be a sovereign. A lot of people say they want to be sovereigns until they have to speak the truth or apologize or anything like that. But like that's the real reality of it. So you are really on your own there. You can still work with people and have alliances, but at the end of the day, it is you responsible for yourself. That's really what it is. Hard lesson, because I don't like it either. It's not that I like it. I'm just telling you it's true. So,
well, we preach that every Tuesday. You have to take responsibility for yourself. It does all begin with you. That's key.
It's the key. And we've lost
really
it.
All you can affect if you work on, and it's not like I've said before, it's not selfish because it's going to benefit everybody around you. If you strengthen your inner core and yourself, you're going to be a better person and you're going to have better interactions with everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What was that meme I saw the other day? It was the best way to stop hurting another person is to stop hurting yourself. I really like that a lot because that's why you hurt other people. Because most people's lashing out is projection.
True.
Accusations are usually admissions of guilt most of the time. It's just self stuff that people don't work on, and they just project it outward. It usually is. I know that's true for most of us.
Psychology a lot.
I do. And also neurolinguistic programming, psychopathy, all that. So
neurolinguistic. Whoa, what is that?
Words and phrases and things and how to speak and tone and all that
matters.
Study
of words.
Mm-hmm. Kind of the study of like how like programmable words.
Some people say that words are spells. Like
yes.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a controlling language, using language in a very specifically controlled way. So you can program people with certain words. It's kind of how hypnotism works and all that. So MK Ultra stuff. Yeah, isn't that crazy? And it's all about language. It's language manipulation. That's why we all speak English, but nobody really understands why we do. And I'm like, because it's a barter language. That's why it doesn't express thought well. So everybody speaks it because it's a barter language. It's just like a basic get this stuff, trade your stuff, and then move on. It's like a port language. You know what I mean? So that's what's funny about it. And then so like we're trying to use that as our main thing because it constricts actual speech and thought. And that's why we have to use our hands so much, because that was our original language of this continent was sign language. That was our original language.
Oh, really?
Yes. Everything was taught in reverse. As you said, we just watched your great video earlier. It was great. They're like, what if all these places were actually designed to tell you the exact opposite? They were. His story, history. That's exactly what they did. They controlled all the faucets of it from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. I watched part of it. Yeah. And that's been the main problem for everyone to understand, is that they wrote everything in reverse. They told you the African slave trade happened. They did not bring us here. We were already here. That's the funny thing. They wrote everything in reverse. They're like, oh, we created this at the World's Fair. No, all those things were already there. The Smithsonian was created by who? Nobody knows. Interesting, huh? And they control all of those things. Isn't that interesting? Caves and where bones went and why there's no giants and anything. Isn't that interesting? Huh, just weird, just questions is all. That's all it is. Nobody checks, though. They don't check. They just believe these institutions on face value. They don't know where they came from, who funded them, who owns them, what they're doing. No idea. No idea at all. Isn't that amazing? And then they blame them for what they do to them later. I'm like, no. This is entirely your fault for not caring. Entirely your fault. So
it is crazy. I'm glad you got to see it, because that shit blew me away. Every time I looked at one of these older World's Fairs, because that won a poll. We always picked a topic with a poll, and somebody added it in. It was actually added, and it won. So I had to look into it. And when I started looking at it, because I never did before, and I'm like, they're all the same. All these architecture from
weird,
all older World Fairs.
Yeah.
And then they just want to tell you they built all this intricate stuff in ridiculously short amounts of time to just tear down. Why?
Weird, huh?
Yeah.
And then it makes you ask questions about everything, like how the Edwardians all of a sudden had machines out of nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just questions. That's all. Just questions.
Well,
just
that I even left out of the video, because there would be huge amounts, huge dumps of technology at all these World Fairs.
Weird.
Yeah. Super weird.
No, nobody knows. Nobody knows how. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting. But that's how you know people don't ask questions. They just don't ask questions. And that's why the WikiLeaks thing was so bad for everybody, is because they couldn't, it wasn't like they disproved it. They just ignored that it happened. And we were like, but you didn't, like, everything that they posted was all the conspiracy stuff that everybody said. Nobody sued them. Nobody still has. Nobody's contested anything that was put there at all in any way.
The only one that suffered is Julian Assange.
But isn't that amazing for the crowd to like go, okay, well, none of these things have been debunked or sued or anything, but they're also referencing aliens and weird shit and clones and like, a whole bunch of shit that everybody's like, oh, that's not real. Bigfoot and a whole bunch. Nope, just ignore that. Like, but clearly it's right there. They're telling you it's right there. I don't know. And this is why they can't pardon him, because if they do, all of that comes out simultaneously. That's terrible. That's the worst decision you could do. It's the absolute worst decision. You know how people are acting during this virus. You really want them to learn about child trafficking, pedophilia, you want to learn all of that at the same time? That's a very bad idea. That's a very bad. There's a reason why we're doing it slowly. There's a reason. Because you can't just bombard people with shit like, especially in the state that they're in right now. That's a very bad idea. Very bad. Make them angry and they will act stupid. You know they will. So we have to be cautious. This is why we have to be very tactical. If we put these people in a corner, the cabal in a corner, they will come. They have a scorched earth policy. They will take all of you down with them. If they don't get to use the toys, they'll break them. So we have to be very cautious with that. We have to be able to keep the toys intact while entrapping them so that they can't do anything to get out of it. You know what I mean? It's all about entrapment. You can't just get them. You have to entrap them. Because that's how they get us. That's exactly how you get them. That's exactly how. So I hate the game too. The game is obnoxious, isn't it? It's just detail oriented all day, and it's very frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating.
This is why we're the rabbit hole, everyone. We're the information desk down here, trapped in the rabbit hole.
Do you see there was a nice piece from the New York Times today about how you should not critically think anymore? You should get all your information from the media. Really. And it was titled, "Don't Go Down the Rabbit Hole."
Yeah, I saw it. Isn't that great? They're being open. Yeah, they're being open right to your face now.
Please stop thinking.
Right to your face. And then they're demanding that you challenge them. They're like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? They love it. They love it, darling. They're completely losing. The facade is shattered. And it keeps shattering. Every action they take, and then Wall Street fucked up, and then everybody just keep doing it over and over and over again. And we're like, wow, the impeachment, all of it. The shield is just fallen off of them, and everybody sees who they are now. That's the best part.
They're acting crazy.
They'll get worse
as a result. When you see it, because so many people, as you're saying, are pulling away from it, and once you're starting to see it, it's insane the way they act.
They're throwing people to us. This is what happened the first time in March, the deluge of truthers. We all started blowing up out of nowhere because everyone was just like, oh, they have something. They got it. They called it. They know what's going on. And people were just done. They were just done with it. And the more hostile they act, the more they push people to us. It's also like when they ban and censor, those people get more and more popular because you censored them. That's all it does. All it does. It just makes it that much more popular. So that was also Orwell's warning too. He's like, you can't censor people because it will make them more popular. It will by definition.
It gives you validation too.
It does. It completely validates you.
Makes people want to seek you out. There is no such thing as bad publicity. So you start being like, well, no, we have to shut Lynn Wood up. Now I want to know who Lynn Wood is.
Because they didn't know before. Yep, there you go. That's exactly it. There's no way to avoid it. There's no way. Every choice has a consequence. Some people just think only certain choices do. No, every choice has a consequence. Every single one. That you just have to weigh the pros and cons of that. So it's fun. It's fun to learn in real time, isn't it? It's how law works too. People are like, but how come all these lawsuits didn't work? I'm like, because we filed them incorrectly. But then we learned how we filed them incorrectly. Now we're going to refile them again. That's how we do it. I mean, that's just how litigations work. So they're not going to just go down. They're going to try to defend themselves. So we have to just be better than that. we have to expect them to try, So
right.
Because they already know what we're going to do anyway. So it's not like we're going to catch them off guard. They know.
But everybody always wants an easy answer,
Always. And that's why they don't get it. And they never will. You never get it. It's waiting. It's just patience the whole time. And we wait for a correct opportunity to strike, and then we do. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So it's the law of attraction, not the law of assertion. So people they can't just assert it into existence. They have to wait for the time to do so. The situation and sequence will align to do things. That's exactly how the cabal works. So they really have to do anything. They just incite us to do it. Like they'll set a spark and then we do the rest. So
patience is hard though. That's another thing I need to master.
It's the most underrated value. That's the one I tell everyone to focus on the most. And everyone's like, well, what is our action? What do we need to do? We need to be doing more. No. There's nothing for you to do. If we're all dependent, as we are on all the things that we're dependent on, then the only thing to do is to wait. We have to wait. We have to take notes. We have to archive, and we have to database. That's what we have to do. That's really what's within our power as the group that connects all these people together. We're the ones doing it. So we have to be that base. We have to make sure that when people fall, they don't fall into the systematic abyss of time, that we can catch them. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of the problem.
Way of putting it.
That's the only thing livecasters should be doing. We're not supposed to be dispelling other groups of people that we don't like Q people. That's not a goal of it. It doesn't help anyone. You know what I mean? The goal is to connect as many people as possible because we're still looking for each other. We're not done. It's not like we got everybody and we're ready to go. We're still looking for people now at this moment. So people need to focus on that still, especially because we're being stopped from doing it. So what should that tell you? We're being specifically prevented from connecting to other groups, which means we need to specifically do that. That's exactly what we should be doing. So, because otherwise we'll be trapped in our own echo chambers forever. You know what I mean? Just reinforcing our own bullshit. So,
right. And that's no way to be. I'm going to keep plugging away. That's what I've been doing. even though it's hostile territory. I'm on I have to be on the sister channel on YouTube right now because one more strike and then they wipe all the videos.
So people were
I went
asking
over
if I
the
was
other
able
one to wait it out. But I've been moving my videos to Rumble though, because they don't.
Good.
It seems to be a safer place to keep them. I'm still going to put them on YouTube though, because I want to get them out to where anybody would see them.
Yeah,
that's
you should. Yeah, use YouTube until they get rid of you, and then Rumble's great, and it is the replacement, and YouTube is very mad about it. And there's fights legally between the alt tech sites and the main tech sites for this reason, and they're intense. They're very intense. That's why Parlay's back. So because there's shit going on in the background. There's really
crazy what happened to Parlay.
It's amazing. Well, Parlay kind of fucked it up themselves too. Not like by having the platform, but how they, in their lawsuit against Google, they kind of fucked it up in their charges and claims. Yeah, a little bit. They should have stuck to more of like a breach of contract more than like the thing that they were focused on, which was more of like an ideology thing. And I'm like, that doesn't really work in law. Like you just need to, they don't care. Like litigation, it's about what you can prove legally. It's not about like we know that they hate conservatives, but that's not a legal claim. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, they did. But that's what the whole point is, that we know why they were targeted. We know specifically why, and there's no like talking or rationalizing out of it. Parlay was basically removed because it hurt liberal establishment's feelings. That's all. That's the only reason. It didn't host anything. It didn't do anything that Twitter or anybody else did. It's just that it didn't kick off conservatives. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. So, and we can't have that. We can't have alternate opinions. So
these mistakes, though, that are made in these lawsuits, how much of these could be accidental? Just
mostly.
You think mostly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everyone followed Dr. Pam Popper on YouTube. She's the one doing a lot of these litigations, seeing why a lot of the lawsuits that we filed in the past don't work. And it's because we filed incorrectly on minor things and things like that, especially when it comes to things like the virus that shall not be named. We're trying to file. Well, we're trying to file constitutional stuff, and we can't do that because the Constitution has been suspended by emergency powers. So now what we have to do is file to prove that this is an emergency, and then we can file about constitutional breaches. You see what I mean? Like it's that nuanced. It's that nuanced. Word magic. So
now I remember, because I don't know much about law. I haven't studied it like you, but when I was going through my divorce, I would sit in my lawyer's office and I was in awe at his law books. And that's what they've done, is just overcomplicated the shit out of it, so that they can nitpick and get most things just dismissed on a technicality. That's what it sounds like to me anyway, as a layperson.
Kind of, but also it's that we don't value law, but we also have a society based on it. And that's kind of the problem, because they've made us not value contracts. And so because we don't value contracts, the contracts that we sign, we don't know about or care about until it comes time to pay the dues for those contracts. So that's the issue. Like, that's what they say, nothing's free. There is no free lunch. Like, they're like, oh, YouTube and all this is free. No, you're the product. There is no free. So that's the whole thing. We just have it in our mind that it is. No, nothing's provided to us. That's not how that works. Not without a cost. So the first rule of economics. The first rule of economics is there are no solutions, only trade-offs. You trade one thing off for another. That's the very first rule. So we have to get over these notions of utopia and rhetoric and just and generic platitudes, emotional platitudes. As you were talking about earlier, a lot of things are emotional platitudes. They're not. People don't know the difference between an emotional claim and an empirical claim, and that's really the main concern there. It's not that they're diametrically opposed or separate. It's just that they think they're the same all the time, and they're not. Sometimes emotion is just emotion. It doesn't really have anything to do with, you know what I mean, like the actual claims you're making. So it's just how you feel about those claims. That took me a long time, because when I was staunch neoliberal back in the day, all of that was emotions. There was no, I didn't actually know the topics I was mad about. I was just yelling about them as if I had studied them, but I hadn't, So
this is a good question that you may have a better answer to than me. I would just think it's because of the unregulation that they've been under since the 80s. But she was asking, how do they get away with the people that these jabs hurt or maim and all the things that happen? They look up incidences of cases, but how do they get away with it?
Well, they said even before they released it that they're not held liable for it, for any side effects that come out. That was the first thing. But then secondly, also they can make you get it possibly via the 14th Amendment, because we traded up our sovereignty for dependence on the welfare state, which makes you a ward of the state legally. So therefore, you're too incompetent to decide for yourself whether or not you can or cannot do that. That's the downside of the welfare state.
Is that why the NFL's talking about the use of stadiums for inoculations?
Correctly.
And why they would want 600 million doses for a population of 332 million?
Correct, because and of course the NFL is just just like World Wrestling or anything else, it's staged. We've had whistleblowers in the football in football teams that are like, no, this is all theatrical. It's pre-scripted from the very beginning. We sign a full disclosure contract, just like entertainment artists do, that says the things that are going on behind the scenes aren't going on. Bread and circuses. Bread and circuses all day. We love it.
Oh yeah.
We love it. Give them stadiums. They love it. They love it. They really do. They're really into it. You see, like, they're playing through our desire. It's not just that they're evil. No, we want that. We want it. And we're giving into that desire. There you go. That's it. That's it. Hedonism.
Something Diane was saying about, she says we sign contracts for everything, don't even know what we're signing. They're so long and complicated. And then the other thing I came to my mind while you were talking was these user agreements that we've been so conditioned with that no one reads. Have those been training and conditioning us to further ignore contracts and details of things
through
like
convenience,
that and just give our trust willingly
for convenience? Just as no, that's what we do for everything. That's why we smoke in the first place. Nobody was smoking before a certain time. It's just they bring it. They give you things in times of crisis or convenience, and then they acquiesce to the things you need. And because we're not producing it, right? We're not producing it, but we need it. Therefore, somebody has to produce it. So then that's how they get you. They get you through the things that you need that you will not take responsibility for. That's exactly how they get us. And there's no way the only way to avoid that is to be is to be independent from them on that. If you can make your own clothes, you don't have to be entirely independent, obviously. You work as a community. But if you're a centralized corporate mass, then you can't really do it. You don't have a say. You see what I'm saying? You don't have a say if you're a mass entity. That drowns out the possibility of individualism entirely. Right. So, and that's where innovation is coming from, is individuals. It's not coming from groups, it's coming from individuals. So there's no balance there. They don't want individuals though, because then that might challenge the dynamic of control. So, as we all know. So it's just a never-ending battle there. But the contracts matter. They matter. The birth certificates, the things you saw, your signature. You got to know what you're signing. You got to know. You got to know where these things come from. Not just that they're there, but where they come from and who designed them. So
I know I'm guilty of it.
I was too the whole time. That's why I was forced to study law, because I was like, oh, I'm not paying attention to anything. I'm not. I thought this was a government. It's actually a U.S. corporation that has usurped your government since 1871. This is crazy. But we're not supposed to know those things. We're not supposed to know that. But it explains all of the shitty things that happen in this system, because it's not an actual government. It's a corporation pretending to be a government. It's a de facto. It's a de facto government. That's exactly what it is. It always has been. Always. The entire time. So, and the only ones that opposed it died on the Titanic, ironically. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I don't even think it was the Titanic. I think it was the Olympic.
Yeah, the sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
The sister ship. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That whole deal. Yeah.
It was an insurance fraud scam as well. As well as taking out some opposition to the global agenda.
As many birds with as many stones as possible. You know how they are. Yeah. So everything serves multiple functions with them. So yeah, it was a very good plan though, wasn't it? It worked. It clearly worked. And then they rushed that bill through right then and just eliminated your government real quick. Real quick. In the dead of night. Like it was like a Christmas Eve and like winter. Like this is ridiculous. So and by the time it happened, it was too late by the time it happened. Especially when we got the Fed, which was too late by then. It was like they did it. So and then they tricked us to give it in our gold, and then tricked us off our land and did all that. Slowly. So slowly over contract. They use contracts to do it, and the labels that we use, like white and black and Indian. These are slave titles, and we're identifying them as them, and so therefore we are chattel, because that's what those mean. So, oopsie doodles. That's what they mean legally. But when I point that out on TikTok or usually on Facebook or somewhere else, I'm blocked or banned immediately. I'm like, I didn't say anything. I'm literally quoting your own history back to you. This is in the census records. It's congressional. Like, this is where this is where it all came from. Georgia House Resolution 1203, a whole bunch of shit. Here it is. It just tells you what all these things mean, and nobody reads it. We're like, I don't know what to tell you, but you did sign it. You have to know what you're saying when you say it. You have to know what words are, the epistemology of words. That's why we use things like citizen, but nobody knows what citizen means. They're always like, our civil rights. Our civil rights. Civil comes from civitas, meaning permissions granted by the state that can be revoked at any time. That's literally what it means. And then they're like, they've revoked it. Yes, which is what civil means. Civil, they can't give you rights. You already have them. They can't give you anything. They don't have the capacity to do that. That's the whole funny part. So people are waiting for permission to get rights. That's not how rights work. So you can't convince any dark-skinned person on the left of that at all now. They think we're like crazy lunatics for stating that. I don't need permission from people to have my, you know what I mean? I don't. I really don't. I just don't at all. So they'll get over it when it's them. Do you notice they're complaining on Twitter? Have you seen it? Ooh, they're mad now because now that censorship stuff that they support is coming for them.
Well, why would they think it wouldn't? You know, I was saying that the whole time. Like, they will eventually get around to you.
Mm-hmm. And then I had to answer the main question, which has confused a lot of people, which is, why did they go after the left or the right wing first then? And I'm like, for a very simple reason. The right wing is already constitutional and already armed. So they already hate the government. So they have to be taken down first. And that way, when they take down the liberals, nobody can defend them. See the plan? That's the plan. Mm-hmm. That's the plan. Play both ends against the middle. It's called 3-card Monty. Oldest trick in the book. Oldest trick in the book. Walk away with the spoils. Fantastic, huh? This is what I mean. They care. They actually care more about us than we do. They do. They care about our mannerisms, our behaviors. They care about it deeply. That's how they're able to manipulate it. So maybe we should care.
We should.
It's not about whether or not we believe that. We don't have to believe in astrology or Satan or anything. But we have to understand one thing. They believe in it. So that's really the only thing that matters. So that's really
I say that all the time. It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential that you don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
That agenda is being used against you because they deeply do.
They deeply do. Deeply. So there's nothing to say there other than just accept what people when they tell you who they are. So you know what I mean? But some of that is so damaging and like we can't even process that we just dismiss it being true. That's why it's so hard to tell them about the deep dark stuff. It was because that's too much. In our cute little quaint propriety society, we don't, you know what I mean? They don't realize the colonial secrets that took to get to this point. So
right, and
that are still there. They never went away. They think the black market like mysteriously disappeared or something. No, it's still there. It's legal. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's bigger than ever. Like, I don't know where people. I mean, it's not like just because we're kicked off of mainstream platforms that all internet is gone. No, there's still the deep web and the dark. We're still around. We're just not on mainstream surface web. That's all it is. So we'll adapt. We've done it before. We can do it again, or we'll have to survive. We don't really have a choice. So it's not really an option. So.
Now I need to learn law. I almost went and went to college for that. I wanted to be a lawyer. Long time ago.
You don't have to go to college for that. No, you don't need a degree or anything. It's about laws like natural law principles, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. These are all. It's more important that you know the natural principles because that's what constitutional principles are based off of. But it's natural law principles. And you know what law is. You know what nature is. The laws of nature. So that is what law comes from. So and the cabal is against nature. They're against the natural law. That's what it is. That's why their system works this way, because it's against those principles. It's exactly against all those things. So and that's why they inevitably will fail. Evil at the end, evil always destroys itself. It always does. You don't have to defeat the villain, they always defeat themselves. They always do. They have to. It's their nature. So you know what I mean? Once you've given into that, you're stuck there. That's what they mean when they say when you join them, you can't come back because then there is no getting out. You're with them till the end once you do it. You know, there's a certain line you can cross and then you're there. So that's the sad part.
It is. Diane says taking the time to read contracts and break them down is tedious but important.
It's very important. Or don't sign them or just figure it out. But it's not like you have to go to school and do all these things. A lot of that's like it's not about the paperwork. It's about the understanding what sovereignty is and acting as that, because it's not like a status. Sovereignty, it's a mode of operation. It's a way of being. You are a sovereign. You know what I mean? You don't identify as that. You are a sovereign being. So that's how you behave. So by definition, you know what people can or cannot do to you. Because a lot of that legalese is like, oh, it leads with presumption, like we're going to do this, and like, but if you're sovereign, you know whether or not they can do that, even by proposing it. It's one of those. You know what I mean? Like you already know they can't do a certain thing. You already know they can't. They're just trying to see if you know it. Yeah, they're magicians. They're magicians with an empty hand, and you have to call their bluff. That's really what it is. That's how they work. So that's why the Bible says it. Beware the magicians. And they shall burn in the lake that runs with fire, darling. That's why. That's exactly why. So beware. I take esoteric terms much more seriously now that I understand allegory. So that took a while. Liberals are very stubborn with that. Liberals are very stubborn when it comes to allegory in literature. So they take everything as literal. That's what they're objecting to. Like they're objecting to the literal right wing, the people that take the Bible literally. We're like, that's not a very large fraction of people. A lot of us understand what allegory is in esoteric tomes, so we get it. Like there's a history, obviously. So they just don't see the value of it.
Myself,
it's hard. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. That's why I can't stand when people say they're bored.
With, this guy Chuck Misler, he broke it down with science and all these other things. It's very fascinating. But Genesis alone was like 32 hours worth of videos. I was like, I can't sit through this, but I really want to understand it.
There's a lot.
I tried to read it. I don't know why it doesn't seem to hold my attention.
Well, maybe it's just a different mode of learning. Like that's, as you say, I learn a different way too, through all different kinds of stuff. Like I couldn't read Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. That's not going to happen. That book is like 5,000 pages long. But I did listen to the audiobook of Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, and I got through it. It took 6.5 hours, and so I was like broken that up through like 2 weeks, but it did happen. And then I was like, okay.
I have a version of the Bible read by James Earl Jones.
Nice.
And I didn't finish it.
Oh, really?
Darth Vader, man. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends on how you're done.
I know when I'm hearing it and when I'm reading it that this needs to be broken down and analyzed.
Yeah.
Like this is not something to read like a story. You need to look at each line and understand it. So that's why I keep coming back to it. I'm like, no, I got to look at it different. So I never get through it.
Yeah, and it is kind of like a guidebook in that way. It's like a text guidebook. So,
but I love hearing and I also found that I like reading scripture because I've been reading the Book of Enoch for an audiobook just to mess around with doing that, and then also read some scripture for different videos, and I like it. It's fascinating. I like reading it.
It's fun. I read a lot of the Sumerian texts from
Sumerian texts,
or at least listen to a lot of the analysis on that. It's vipertv.com, viper.tv.com, or on YouTube, all capital letters, and they go into like detailed, like 2 hour long videos of like certain texts that talk about like the beginning of time and how the planets got here and the gods and who made which god and how the gods manipulated monkeys into this and to do that. So it's just like but it's Sumerian from even like the first like one of the first civilizations. It already knew how everything happened and said it. So very interesting.
Fascinating to listen to.
Very interesting stuff. So I try to link all that. I try to link everything together, and you can't. We're supposed to become more paranoid. That's why they hate paranoia, but we're supposed to do that. We're finding links between things that are seemingly unconnected. So they call paranoia. So that's why they don't like when you're paranoid, because then you can link things, because they want everything to be separate so that they can maintain the illusion. When nothing is separate, everything is related. Everything is. Every topic. So hence why all the researchers of different conspiracy theorists now all merge together, because it's all that is controlled by the same people. Right. Isn't that funny? So we were bound to come together at some point. So that's just really what it was. So but we didn't realize how many of us there were. We thought we really have. I was like, oh, if we even wake up 3.5% of the population, I'll be stunned. But we got more than 5%, which means that it's just a matter of time now. It's inevitable,
right?
Like, you know what I mean? Like 5% is way more than we need to overthrow these people. Like they're done. They're absolutely done. It's just
we could get the unity part right.
Indeed, it's going to take a long time. Like this is not going to be something we're just going to solve. It's going to take the entirety of our lives to do it. But they are running scared now. They realize that their time is at an end. So now they're just trying to stave off the inevitable. But we're the Borg. Resistance is futile. They're only delaying it. That's all they're doing. They're just delaying it. But we have four more moves and we can put them in checkmate. So
I like your way of looking at that. They're on the ropes as well.
They wouldn't be acting like this. If they were winning, why would they be acting like this? I don't think they are.
They're losing their grip.
And of course, people were like, well, how do you know that? Like, because how would they have all these dark people? You don't think there's no one working on us on the inside? Of course there is. Just because they're not loud and boisterous like the dark side doesn't mean they're not there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have whistleblowers in the first place. Clearly, somebody's doing something. There's an opposite. There's an opposite to all these people, obviously, or we wouldn't still be here. We just wouldn't. They would have already won, and there'd be no problem here. Clearly, there's always going to be a resistance. It's just that it's not working the way we think it should work. It just works the way it does. Welcome to creation. we don't get to control the creation. We just create it. That's all. So,
right on. Well, that's what we're doing, and that's what we'll continue to do.
You got to fight. Constant vigilance, everyone. Constant, every day. But it's not. We're not fighting with other people. We're mostly just trying to, learn ourselves. Forgive ourselves and other people for. It's okay that we were all manipulated and destroyed and all that by all these people, but we have to forgive ourselves and move on. And we don't have to honor their contracts. Since all those contracts were given to us without full disclosure, they are null and void. But if you don't know that, you can't challenge them. So you have to understand what you signed, what you agreed to, what the cost of your dependence on these people is. And if you want to continue advocating for it, because that's really where the rest of us can't be independent if the rest of you choose dependence, because then you'll keep us from becoming independent. That's the whole problem, is that they want us like as a monolith. So they're not just going to let us be independent and then let you be dependent. They're not going to do that. Right. So either we're all independent or we're all slaves. That's the only way the system works. So
that's our role, is
freedom,
is increasing our awakening of the people and dropping their hold over the narrative and their hold over society. That's how we will win. You're right. And it's a great way of looking at it. But
one day at a time.
I think all the time that we have a common enemy. If we would unite against, there's enough of us already.
Oh yeah.
If we could learn to unite, come together. That's the thing we need to figure out now.
And not be consumers, but producers again. Because we don't produce anything. So we need to stop consuming from everyone and start learning trades and crafts and using our arts and all that, using all that. Because we've been doing that for thousands of years and been fine. We can still do that. There's a way for everyone to be productive. That's why I hate when people tell me they're bored. I'm like, you can't be bored. Only slaves are bored. There's too much to do. There's way too much to do for you to be bored. Way too much. Right. Way too much, honey. So
I keep myself pretty busy. I like to stay busy.
Yeah. Idle hands of the devil's workshop. And I'm telling you that as a gigantic whore. So, I mean, you get horny if you don't do stuff. So you can't just be playing with yourself all day, people. You got to get something done. You got to learn a craft or something. You got to do something. So
I got to stay busy. I get in trouble. I'm too busy to be in trouble.
Right? Too busy. Too busy to be political. Too busy. So
I got too much going on. So I don't want to wrap up, but I got to get up early for work, and it's getting to be that time that I have to say goodbye to you. But I really appreciate you doing this and coming on the show and hanging out.
Yes, thank you. We'll have to do it again. I definitely have to keep track of comedy and stuff. We're gonna have to have a lot more comedy stuff.
Yes, and you know what? I was talking about that because you had mentioned doing something like that, a comedy type segment. We got to nail that down.
Mm-hmm.
To do that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna message you about that and get in touch with you about that. That would be neat. I was thinking about that ever since you said it and brought it up. That would be fun to do.
Because it's rare to talk with other people in actual entertainment. I'm like, oh, I forgot there's other entertainers. Where are you all at? Because everybody I know just has regular jobs. So they have no idea about the history of our artistry or anything. We're like, I can't even talk to you.
It'd be really cool.
I
wanted to do that too. So that'd be neat. I'm gonna get with you about that.
Nice.
But yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all. I'll see you all very soon. Okay.
You have a great night.
You too. Bye. Toodles.
All right. So that was Ty Ntefalle, Furious George. Man, I'm excited. That was neat. I hated having to wrap that up early. Well, it felt early. I know it's late. We're at about an hour and a half right now, but felt early to me because I was having so much fun. I can't get a hold of my screen. There we go. That's what I want. That right there. But yes, this has been the Shawn Yankey Show. And thank you guys so much. Like I said, come back tomorrow night. We'll have the weekend review. I edit up the highlights of the week and we watch it back together. But if you want, in just a little bit, we're going to have a watch party on my timeline after the show. We watch these back. I like to watch them to study them and learn from them. And then tonight I got to watch it because I want to hear this conversation and watch the show. So if you want to hang out with me and watch it, come back to my timeline on Facebook and I'll be watching it. Or come back tomorrow night and watch the best of this week with us. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, guys. And you guys have a great night.